I've had the pleasure of knowing and meeting the exonerees. Julie Baumer has attended several of my classes, and as you can see on the program, she spent almost 5 years in prison for a crime that never occurred, a medical condition that led to injuries to her nephew, and was convicted under this rather bizarre shaken baby syndrome concept. But I think the positive things we want to say is what they're doing now. So if you're in the market for real estate, you have an excellent realtor here. As for Richard Phillips, I heard him speak on several occasions. Your flyer indicates that he's an artist. I can attest to that. Our visa slip for a painting that we bought from Richard is outstanding. I want to get it soon, but his artwork is really remarkable. And is the exhibit still up in Ferndale?
No, I took it down yesterday.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there'll be others. I haven't known Aaron Salter that long. He spent 15 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of attending a program that his organization, Innocence Maintained, put on in Detroit 2 Saturdays ago. And it was just a remarkably interesting and well-organized program. Innocence Maintained, as he'll tell you about, is a nonprofit organization that helps returning citizens and really does good work. And alphabetically last, Darrell Siggers, who has spoken to my class, 34 years for a murder he did not commit. Darrell is seeking the American dream, unlike the rest of us who are in academia or doing nonprofit work. Well, no, I should say he and Julie. He started a for-profit organization called Access Plus that provides the kinds of specific services that are really important to people who are incarcerated and need to get access to things like FOIA records and the like, and he'll tell you more about that. And I just can't tell you how impressed I am with all of these folks. So I'm going to sit down now, let Dave get the ball rolling, and then we'd like to hear from him.
Thanks, Mark. So I'm going to speak as little as possible because the 4 people seated up here with me are far more interesting and have a far better story to tell than any I do. I do just want to note a couple of things. Michigan is a state with a lot of wrongful convictions. We're getting near 100 exonerations on the National Registry of Exonerees. And the vast majority of these exonerations, like the 4 people here, were non-DNA exonerations. The exonerations started really rolling in the late 1980s, early 1990s with the advent of DNA testing. But more and more of the cases have become non-DNA cases in the clinic that I co-founded in 2009 with now Chief Justice Richard Phillips at the University of Michigan. He focuses on cases where there is no DNA to test. So Mark briefly introduced the 4 people sitting to my right, but I just want to remind you how much time collectively they served. I did a little math here. 99 and a half years between these 4 people. I'm not sure what order they're going to speak in, but Darrell, as Mark mentioned, did 34 years. Aaron, 15 years. Julie, nearly 5. And Richard currently holds the unfortunate United States record of the longest time served by any person ultimately exonerated at 46 years. And these people you're going to hear are truly remarkably resilient people who have taken this experience and are going forward with their lives. So I've asked each of them to speak up to 5 to 10 minutes on any aspect of their wrongful convictions, how they were exonerated, what the exoneration was like, or what it's been like since the exoneration. And to the extent that they want to weave into their narrative how the race and the gender, their race and to go first?
Ladies first. For me, the one thing that I would really like to stress here is that I'm so glad that Michigan abolished the death penalty at my own time. Because in 47 years, you can believe I probably wouldn't be sitting here if we had the death penalty. And that would be one of the most shameful things that could ever happen to the state of Michigan. To be killed for something that you didn't do. Think about that. Going home from work, police pull you over for any reason. Just any excuse. Next thing you know, you're in prison. You don't necessarily have to do anything. All you have to do is just have someone to accuse you of doing something. As in my case. No one ever said they seen me do anything. No one ever said that there's DNA that establishes you at this particular place at a particular time. None of that. No evidence whatsoever. Even the person that did the murder got caught with the gun. But yet still, how did the gun end up being in my case, at my trial? They got the gun off somebody else. Police arrested him and let him go because of illegal search and seizure. At least that's the reason. But why didn't you destroy the gun after the illegal search and seizure? Why did you keep it a year and then bring it in my trial and say, I gave him the gun? It's ridiculous. And then as far as the conviction is concerned, to have someone to just be able to get on the stand and say, he told me he killed someone, that's ridiculous. No one should go to prison for someone saying a lie. How do you actually be able to justify sending someone to prison on someone's word? That's madness. In other words, I can go to court right now and say, David Moran sold me a key of dope. Should he go to prison for the rest of his life? Think about that. The same thing could happen to any of you. That's what happened to me. But through God's will, after all serving all those years, I come to realize that, hey, there's good people in the world and there's bad people in the world. And we're all going to go through a process of having bad times, misery, all of us. But it's how you respond to that that actually makes the difference in your life. Me, I've decided to respond to it in such a way that I'm going forward, regardless of whether they give me compensation or not. Doesn't matter. If I have to get my own money, if I have to actually get out there on the movement and beg for nickels and dimes, I will. Because my thing is, I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life, regardless to who says what, regardless to how they think I should feel, how they think I should be mad. Be mad for what? It's going to destroy me. I'm not letting anything destroy my spirit. Nothing and nobody. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm living life around it because I got my freedom. I didn't ask for $2 million. So I'm at a stage right now where I'm just enjoying life, trying to give back through the information that I can impart to anybody that has questions about prison or whatever. That's what I'm here for, to give back. Nobody's paying me a dime for this. But I've got friends and people that I associate with that I love and that I know love me. So I'm trying to give back as much as I possibly can. Julie?
Thank you, Richard. Julie Baumer, I served 4.5 years. I was convicted for, wrongfully convicted for first-degree child abuse. And in 2010, I was formally exonerated. Obviously, I learned the very hard way that wrongful convictions, it's not blind to any race or creed or gender, obviously. And to be in prison, especially when you're innocent, it's not fun for anybody. It's a very difficult journey. I'm very grateful for the Michigan Innocence Clinic. And after I was formally exonerated, the road to the recovery to come back to society, because they basically strip you of everything except for an ID number. You lose your name even. So to try to recover and regain your humanity, it's still a work in process. And I'm 10 years this year of being home. So by the grace of God and my faith, that's what's kept me to staying above water, if you will, not drowning completely. So I just thank you guys for being interested in this, so that more that we are aware, the more that we can do to try to resolve the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. How everybody doing? My name is Aaron Salter. I was charged with first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, which carries 20 to 40, and I have felony firearm. On August 15th, on my birthday, I was released by the Conviction Integrity Unit. The prosecutor herself said that I need to be compensated because I never was supposed to be in prison. The reason I was in prison because it was a police officer that failed to investigate properly, and he basically just was showing mug shots. He was using suggestive identification. I don't know how many people are familiar with suggestive identification, but that's when somebody suggests to you that they know something, or that you know something. Say if I showed you a photograph and I said, is this the person you know from the neighborhood or something like that? And the person will automatically fix in their mind, I must know this person from the neighborhood, And that's an actual tool that actually works. I don't know if anybody ever tried it, but try it sometime. And it's an effective tool, and there's been a lot of studies done on that. And a lot of police officers, they know that technique. They know that they shouldn't use that type of technique because it actually interferes with the investigation process to figure out if you got the right person or not. You want to find out who the actual investigator think committed the crime. If you actually put something in somebody's mind that maybe have had a traumatic event, you're very impressionable on that person. And a lot of officers use this type of thing. They actually showed a mug shot of me to a victim that just watched his friend die in his driveway. They actually showed him a picture of me, my mug shot, which had my description, everything on it. I wasn't in custody, and they showed this guy that because of me staying in the impoverished neighborhood at the time, they had this thing where the police just jump out and they just frisk guys. Now, when they jumping out and frisking you, if you don't have identification, they take you down to the station and they take a mug shot of you. Now, what you don't know is these mug shots is being used at the later time to ask people if you committed a crime or if you did this or if you did that, And a lot of officers, that a guy that's, just loitering, he's not going to, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to be the murderer. There's no way you should put a guy that's loitering in there for a suspected murder. That's no possibility. That shouldn't even be a thought. But that's what this officer did. He actually showed the guy my photograph. I graduated high school at Kettering High School on Van Dyke 94. I went to college at University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So it wasn't like I was just a person that was just on the street, that wasn't educated or nothing like that. I wasn't educated as far as to the law. So that's why this classes like this is so important, because y'all get to hear the other side of it, because if you make wrong mistake, there's consequences to that, to a person's life. You could alter a whole family life by putting a guy wrongfully in prison. My family life was altered. Like people that I was close to, I'm no longer close to them because they didn't support me when I was locked up. Even when, I was fighting, some people actually thought I did the crime. Like, that's hard pill to swallow. Like, You know, because a lot of people believe that the police officers are right, and they're not always right. They need people to police them. I don't know if everybody been watching, but they've been doing a lot of stuff lately that, you know, causes their credibility to be in question. So, you know, that's why investigation is so important. That's why, you know, the process is so important. And we got a lot of people that's being influenced to just win cases and do this and do that, and that's wrong because people's lives at stake. You know, if you're a prosecutor, you know that this case should not even been tried. 9 times out of 10, come on now. But we so eager to build a career, you know, on convictions, a career on people's lives, and it's just not wrong. You know, that was done to me. So me knowing how the justice system do us, and me knowing how, you know, pretty much nobody's gonna look out for a person that come from a poor neighborhood. I started my own organization, which is Innocence Maintained, which I'm the CEO of. And what we do is we hire crime investigators, we hire lawyers, you know, we hire polygraphers, anything that we need to get a person out of prison. That's what we about. Even after prison, we help guys get birth certificates, Medicare, all that. Because when I came home, like this is a Exoneree-led organization. Like when I came home, I didn't have that stuff. I didn't have nobody to take me to the Social Security office. I didn't have people to do that. You know, I came home after 15 years. My birth certificate, all my stuff lost. Like, I don't know if anybody ever had to go to the Secretary of State with no ID or birth certificate. It's hard. Like, it's hard. And you do all that, just got out of prison with no car. Like, I get it, and I understand that we need to make sure that guys coming out of prison are afforded those rights because they will commit crimes. You know, if you can't get an ID, you just been wrongfully accused or found me on your back about needing money. Like, it's pressure, you know. So what my company do is actually try to alleviate some of that pressure off guys and help them out before they break, you know. So thank you, I appreciate it.
About how bad the identification was in Aaron's case. The witness had described a man about 5'7", 150 to 170 pounds. That's not Aaron. Aaron, how tall are you?
6'3".
Not even close. Sorry.
My name is Darrell Siggers. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the distinguished panelists, all of you, Professor Zalman, Professor Gross, Professor Moran, and all the other people that helped in bringing these situations to light. I'd especially like to thank my attorney, Wolfgang Mueller, who has been doing a tremendous job. You may see it on the news. He will stand like a wall of brass for guys who are innocent. He will work with police officers. He won't bite his tongue. And I admire people with that type of spirit because it takes that type of boldness to confront injustice. And some people will just wink their eyes and just let it go on, but not Wolfgang Mueller. And not going to be distinguished panelists like Professor Marcus Elman, David Moran. And I thank you all so much because it is through them that we are here right now. Val Newman, from Conviction Integrity Unit, you know what I'm saying? Brilliant lady, smart lady, you know, and they're doing all they can with the limited resources that they have. I was convicted of first-degree murder in 1984 for a crime I didn't commit. I served 34 years in prison. And being in prison is one of the most traumatic and devastating points of my life. And as I was going through this trial process, one of the things that affected me more than anything else was my lack of education, my lack of understanding of the process. Because if you don't understand, when they're talking about jury instructions, they're talking about different court rules, and you just sitting there, depending on the lawyer who's sitting next to you. A lot of times these are court-appointed lawyers who are underpaid, overworked, and they got so many cases, and they got to get these cases done. And so you just part of the machine. And when I heard some of the professors talk about the systemic and structural racism, I was truly, truly surprised at the level that this stuff goes to, and how this stuff is structurally built in to our system. It's almost like it's on purpose. But anyways, I sat going through this trial. I felt defenseless. Here it is, somebody put you in the system, try you, and all the time I'm believing in this stuff. I'm saying I'm innocent. I know this is going to come out right. I'm just sitting, I know that when they convicted me, it was the most devastating. I'm sitting there like, this cannot be true. This cannot be, it was like a nightmare. And then when the police interrogate me, the things they do, they put you in that little bitty room, and there's nobody there but you and them, and they're screaming at you and hollering at you, and they kept you up for hours and hours, they fed you. I mean, you totally, completely alone. And the type of pressure they put on you. And so all these things contributed to my conviction. Again, the lack of education. But the more I began to educate myself, let me back up a little bit. When I first came to prison, there was an older gentleman who seen me walk the yard. And everybody, when they first get, they try to act tough, but this is what prisoners do. You gotta stand your ground. And so he seen me, he said, listen, young fella, he said, the only way you're gonna get out is you have to go to the law library, study, and learn the law so you can defend yourself. And the more I learned the law, the more I felt empowered, because now I understand these court rules, now I understand these jury instructions, now I understand these laws, now I understand this whole process. And I used to tell people this all the time. If you look up the word law, one of the definitions is law is a tool used to settle disputes. And who settles the disputes? The judges do, and they use the law as a tool to settle disputes any way they choose. So the real law is the judges, because you can file a 50-page brief of motion, a beautiful motion, proving your innocence, you got all the evidence and everything else, and the judge can just still say, no, deny, and it's over with. You go to the next step, because it's easier for a judge to deny you than it is for them to grant you, because if they deny it, then they're done with it. If they grant it, then they got to conduct a trial, they got to have witnesses, they got to do juries and all this stuff. So it's easy for them to deny you as opposed to grant you some relief. And so the whole process, one of the main things you got to have is, we talk about race, and we talk about most of the people, or shall I say, African Americans go through the system, they're uneducated, and they don't have the funds and resources to pay big-time lawyers like Wolfgang Mueller and other lawyers to come in and defend them. And so you're defenseless. And so what I tell guys all the time, the best thing you can do is educate yourself. The best thing you can do is go learn the law. And the law is not easy. It is like a written language that you don't even understand. People versus this, they get the United States Supreme Court and different federal courts, you know, they make 100-page decisions. Who wants to read 100 pages? Who wants to read that stuff? And for every law that says one thing, there's another one that says something completely different. So you can say, and I should believe, you know, I should be real idealistic. I can go get people versus this, United States versus, and I would look at this stuff, and I would believe in this stuff. I said, okay, I got the case, this supports my innocence. And the court just say, no. And it's just that simple. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. We up here to answer you guys' questions, but let me just say this before I close. I created an organization, or should I say a company called Access Plus, as you heard. And Access Plus, what it does is it provides individual inside access, as I say, to the process. When I was inside, this invention is created out of necessity. What I needed when I was inside was access to lawyers, access to experts, access to private investigators, access to FOIA information. That's Freedom of Information Act information. See, prisoners cannot file Freedom of Information Act requests, so you got to rely on somebody outside to do it. So what I did was I created an organization, or should I say a company, that if you contact me, I will provide you with access to get FOIA requests, or experts, or independent investigators, or if you need somebody to call a judge or a clerk. And see, our families, when we depend on our families to do this stuff, they become overwhelmed. They don't want to deal with prosecutors. They're intimidated by the process. They don't want to deal with clerks. They don't want to deal with recalcitrant judges and clerks and people that are really busy. When you call them, even now, when I call them in behalf, some of the judges, they don't want to talk to you. And so I created this organization. This has been a tremendous outpour of people requesting my service. Some of the mothers be so glad to have a service like that. They're like, look, here, you can call him now. You don't have to call me. A lot of them, see, a lot of them. And when I was inside, I would call my daughter, I would call my son, and I would ask them to get information. I would become so frustrated when they couldn't get information that I thought was simple. But now you got these systems. One of the things that I discovered when we get out, you got a system. Every time you call these systems is, if you speak English, press 1. If you do this, press 2. So by the time you get through it all, it's like, it's 15 minutes just doing this stuff, just trying to understand this automated system. And so you can't get information like that. Again, I don't want to talk too much. Thank you all for being here. And I appreciate all these innocent projects popping up, because we need more of these, because it brings awareness so that good people like y'all will understand the system, that just because somebody say you did something, just because they see you in court, a lot of people have this view, just because you was tried or you was convicted that you did it. If you did it, I ain't got no time for you, and I ain't got no sympathy for it. And so now, these innocence projects are bringing awareness to what's going on. And so I just love it all, and I thank you all. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity and humble, so thank you.
I think we have about 35, 40 minutes left, and I'd like to devote the time to questions.
I can speak, I can use my outside voice.
Yeah.
I read an article in the Detroit News the other day that there's a law that if the exonerees get compensation, and there's apparently no money in the state to pay the exonerees. Could anyone comment on that?
I'll start. That's true. So Governor Snyder signed a law that went into effect in March 2017 to create a compensation remedy for people like these four. And very few have so far collected. The prior Attorney General fought these compensation claims vigorously, used a extremely tricky, I would say close to unethical means to get many of these cases dismissed. And the legislature has failed to adequately fund the system. So now the new Attorney General is saying that we could see some of these claims, but there'd be no money to pay them. So we need the governor and we need the legislature to make it a priority to adequately fund the compensation fund. And so this would be a very good call to action you can do right now, very easy, would be to email or call Governor Whitmer, and she's going to be coming out in a few weeks with her budget blueprint, and to urge her to specifically ask the legislature to adequately fund the compensation fund, and to call or email your legislator, state senator, state representative, and say, this is a priority for you, and you want to see the legislature adequately fund the compensation fund.
Dave, you want to make a point?
Yeah.
I'm Wolf Mueller, right? A lot of these clients who will file these compensation act cases are mine for caseworks. So, thank you.
One of the things I found is why it's so important to call attention to this whole area is the power of the press. Because after that article came out, within 2 days, I had calls from the Attorney General's office that they seemed to find money for two of my clients. And I don't know, they just didn't look in that pocket, I guess, before the story came out. Right, but that I think is why it's so important to have publicity to these issues and the wrongful conviction issue in general, and how it affects race and the gender issues. People don't understand that in general. So the more press we get, the more attention we can call to this, the better the results we can have. And this Compensation Act is firsthand proof of the power of the press.
Hey, I just want to say that anybody in here can be, wrongfully convicted. We didn't do anything to ask for this, but now we home, and it's hard getting little basic stuff like, getting the money that we owe. They signed the bill, like we're supposed to get it, flat out. Like, that's what we vote for and everything, so we need to all be home because this could have happened to anybody.
Let me also say, if I may, and they're making it really hard. They got city attorneys and attorney generals that are fighting tooth and nail not to pay these claims. And you watch yourself. See, first of all, money cannot give me back my 34 years. It cannot give me back the daughter that I lost. It cannot give me back the mother and father that I lost. It cannot give me back none of the time that I lost. And yet they fight tooth and nail to keep us from getting. And it just boggles the mind that they will go as far as they do to prevent people who are because on camera, before they will compensate you, I mean, it's, in terms, it's called wrongful imprisonment compensation act. Wrongful conviction means just that you wrongfully convicted, you're supposed to be compensated. But they done added all this type of draconian language to it to make it so hard for individuals like us to even get compensated. So that's something else that I would hope that the Attorney General would look at and correct this and make this right, because it's just money. What about our lives? Over 99 and a half years, what about the family we lost? What about all the pain? And I can't begin to describe to you what we went through in prison. Having your family come to see you, you got to be shipped out in chains. They take you up and they transfer you, trained up like a slave. You know, putting you on buses, moving different places. I mean, they can do anything they want to do to you in prison. Anything. They can kill you in prison. And they are killing people in prison. You just don't know about it. The public just don't know about it. You know, but that's a whole nother story. We have to talk about race, gender, and all that. So
But it's worth noting that in 2018, Kim Worthy's twice made statements, once in Aaron's case and once in Richard's case, that these are completely innocent men who deserve to be compensated, and yet they haven't been. And so we need to keep pressure on the elected officials. I got a call in September from David Nessel, who was running for Attorney General at that point, asking me for money. And I said, well, I got you on the phone, let's talk about wrongful conviction compensation. And she said, very different approach when she's Attorney General, and that's great. Let's hold her to it. So just because somebody seems to be on the right side of the issues generally, it doesn't mean that they still don't need a little pressure to do the right thing. And so you should contact your Attorney General, contact your governor, and contact your local representatives and senators.
Yes, we have a question downstairs. By the way, if anybody upstairs has a question, come to the floor and wave at us, but just don't fall over.
My question is for Aaron and Darrell. So you started these two organizations that help people who are now in prison trying to get out. How do you get funding?
well, my organization is, my company is for profit. His is for non-profit. What I do is I tell individuals, you got to put $100, give me an administrative fee of $100, and then you put $50 in an account, and for $6, every service that you need, I'll take $6 from that $50. Like you need to call a clerk report, it's $6. You need to call a lawyer, it's $6. You need to call file a Freedom of Information Act request for you, it's $6. And it's been, like I said, overwhelming because it's one of the first companies like this that provide individuals direct access to information that they need. Because in prison, most lawyers, this is the honest truth, but they won't accept collect calls, so you can't call them. You know? And most of them don't respond to letters. If they respond to every letter that they got, that's all they will be doing. And so I can call these folks directly, and I'll keep calling, or I'll email them, or I'll go to their office and post and stand there until they do come and give me the answers that I need. And so that's how we fund Access Plus.
How has that business been going?
Oh, it's been going great. As a matter of fact, I'm only doing it myself right now. And I can't even take any more clients at this point because it's become so overwhelming. Most people want to pay me double just to do the service for them, but I can't do it at this point. And so at this point, as I was talking about, I'm trying to get some office space. I talked to my attorney about getting some office space. Some of the students at Wayne State University want to intern with me, and I'll pay them. But this is all the process. I ain't been out, I have not been out, but 6 months. And so this is the process, and I'm still learning. This has been a transition for me about cell phones, about cars, about, you get in a car. I was getting in the car, my son came to pick me up, and it kept going ding, ding, ding. I said, what is that? He said, that's for your seatbelt. So it's little things like that that we have become acclimated to. Like he said, getting your license, even driving a car. I just recently started driving. And there's some crazy folks out there driving. they so impatient, you know, like they trying to push me out in the full lane traffic. I'm like, man, go around, man. You know, I'm not gonna, but anyway.
Right. As for me, I remember being in prison. You know, everything was going bad. So I prayed to God I wanted some type of relief. In my case, after being denied, I held in advance in the federal court like twice because I wanted all my issues preserved because my life was on the line, you know. So, you know, when I got the news that the guy that falsely pointed me out recanted his statement and saying that he actually said that, you know, I looked like a person, not that I was a person. So I just submitted to God right there. So when I came home, I wanted to help. I wanted to do something, you know, to help guys in my situation that's going through what I'm going through. So that's why I came right home. Me and my co-founder over there, Dwight, the president of my organization also, we founded Innocence Maintained, and we wanted to keep it a non-profit because we actually wanted to help guys, you know, get out. So right now we're not receiving any funding. That's why the Compensation Act is so important. You know, we got donated two offices by churches. You know, we really in the community. We involved in the church. We pass out food for free for Forgotten Harvest. You know, so I'm basically just volunteering my time to scrape by, basically. You know, putting everything that I can in my company since we don't have the proper funding. You know, I'm the one. Like I'm my face, whatever. If I got to show up and raise awareness to this injustice, then this is what I got to do. So I'm doing a lot of outreach work, you know, to compensate for the funds, you know. So if anybody here can help us get funds, like holla at me. I got cards for everybody when we leave here. So, you know, get with me.
Can I ask you a follow-up to that? At the Innocence Maintained conference 2 Saturdays ago that I attended, you had a lot of support from local communities, groups, and judges. Can you explain a little bit how that connection is working and how it's helping your organization?
As far as that connection, like we reach out, we put on an African American history program. We had judges speak about reformation. You know, the importance of helping these guys out once they come home. It's been an influx of guys that's coming home. So we want to have resources for them. So we actually want to start like an innocent task force where we come up with at least one person out of every organization. You don't have to change your name or do nothing like that, but we want to have resources so when these guys come home, each person can be like, well, I got the clothing, well, I got this and I got that, because it's nobody helping these guys that's coming home. I'm being a witness to it. I'm going through it. Like, it's nobody to help us. And even if they do help us, like if we reach out to, say, the parole office, like who really want to step into a parole office? Like, but that's where you got to go get the help at for transitional living. And if I was just exonerated, why would I want to be in transitional living where I got to be home at 6 o'clock? Like, I'm putting myself back in prison. You know, so instead of me trying to reach out to a state senator or somebody to help us for that, I created a company to cut the middleman out so that we can provide adequate housing for these guys that's coming home. You know, so they don't be pushed so far out in the workforce that they don't have a problem with adjusting. Like, these guys coming home really need to be adjusted. They need to talk about their feelings. They need all that, because whether you know it or not, we was taught to real badly in prison. Like, guys actually, the guards actually thought that we was never coming home. Like, they like, this guy got a natural life. This guy's never coming home. He can't do nothing. Nobody he can reach out to that's going to help him alleviate this pain. Like, we was losing, you know? And now that we up and we understand the process, we want to raise the awareness to help guys out, you know, to not have to go through what we went through. So that's why I, you know, started and founded this organization, because we need help. And we need it now. We don't need to wait on no funding. We don't need to write no grants. We need money. We need what the government guaranteed that a guy can get when he's been wrongfully incarcerated, so I can help form my own organization. I don't want no help. You know, I want to form my own organization and get it started, and then I ask for funding. You you know, but I believe in, you gotta have something going, you can't just ask for planning, like, that's not realistic, you know?
I'm thrilled that Aaron is starting this organization, which I just very recently learned about. It is such an unmet need for exonerees when they come out. And my clinic, we've exonerated 21 people now in 10 years, and we have scrambled and largely failed to meet the needs of these people when they're coming out because we just don't have the resources or the budget to do it. We had to have a lot of ad hoc fixes, and Julie here is a great example. When Richard came out in December 2017 after 46 years, we had nowhere for him to go, but Julie stepped up, and Richard stayed with Julie and her father for more than a month until he was able to find a place of his own to go. And so exonerees have a tradition of stepping up to help each other out. And it's just terrific that Aaron's going to get a program going to make this more systemic.
If I could just share a little bit more about that. Mind you, I'm the clinic's, the Michigan Innocence Clinic, I'm their third client. Or third case, fourth client. Nonetheless, everything was so brand new back in 2009. I went to a homeless shelter when I came home. There wasn't anything for me. There wasn't anybody to reach out. So, of course, when I heard that, this gentleman would have spent half of somebody's life incarcerated, and he was either going to have to stay in a county jail for the holidays, so he was actually, he was ready to be released. They just couldn't release him, and it's like, this is his first Christmas home. How are you going to make him stay in jail? And still, several years later, we still don't have anything actually in place that we should have in place. And that's something that I would like to, when funding comes about, we need this, we need housing for people coming home and the support and whatnot. And, everything that they shared about, the social security cards and IDs and everything is, it's horrific. The process of actually trying to get yourself back is like coming back from the dead.
In Richard's case, we had to track down his birth certificate so he could get some of his IDs. So I actually had students working on that. And that was an adventure. Because he was born in rural Alabama in the Jim Crow era. And so you should see his birth certificate. It's a Jim Crow birth certificate. We got it. But it would be great if we didn't have to do that, if there was a systemic way to get that done.
I just want to say one real quickly. I went to THS and I applied for housing. And so I was sitting through the program and everything's going good. And then the lady found out I was an exoneree, that I wasn't a convicted felon. She said, oh, this program does not qualify. You don't qualify for this program. I said, wait a minute. I said, let me understand this. There's a man over here who's convicted of rape and robbery, who served 20 years. He qualifies for the program, and here it is, I'm an exoneree, been proven to be innocent, served 34 years, and this program doesn't apply to me. She said, that's correct, so you have to leave. And so that's just how it is. They don't have, and as boneheaded as that is, that's just the way it is. So we do need services, and there are services, like for instance, Bill Brenham, proven innocence. He gave us $800. As soon as he got home, he came, tracked me down. I don't know how he found out my information, but he gave us, we went to his home, he gave us $800. And that money was needed because you need birth certificate, social security card, license, state ID. You need that type of stuff because you can't get a credit card. And then trying to get a credit card is almost, because you don't have a credit history. And so, and trying to get insurance, you looking at $400. Trust me, it's really, really, really hard for exonerees. And so, any suggestions or help that anyone has, we open to it. Thank you.
Let me also add something to that. In terms of Bill Branham, he also gave me $800. And that money was greatly needed. Because when I got out, the state said, you don't fit the bill as far as us doing anything for you. You're innocent. The program is set up for guilty people, people coming out, pre-release program. program. That's tough luck. But in terms of Bill Brown, he's not only giving me $800, he's giving me his friendship, which I value more than anything.
Right.
That was what he gave me. $800 can go out the window in 1-2 payments on your insurance for your car. My insurance is $4,000 because I don't have no credit. And so that little money there does help proving innocence. So I can only say to myself, in terms of Bill, that I appreciate the friendship that he gives me.
I also received $800 from Bill for proving innocence, and what that went towards was me getting my license, paying for my driver's test. That was important because you got to value independence. You know, after being in prison so long, you lose your independence. And just a little small stuff like being able to drive yourself where you want to go, like that's important because, you know, a lot of situations I've seen people coming back in prison through 15 years because they was with the wrong person or they was in the wrong place. Like, I'm not falling for that twice, you know, so that was really important, man. I thank y'all for that, you know.
I commend you all for your courage in sharing your story. Mr. Siggers, you kind of touched on my question. How does, and this is for anybody, everybody on the panel, how does exonerated appear on your criminal record? I mean, when they pull the background or anything, if you're searching for employment, how does exoneration play into everything that you do moving forward?
It's funny you would ask that question. I was just dealing with that last month. They have a website called OLIS, Offender Tracking Institutional Systems, with your incarcerated folks. Everybody that's incarcerated, they put you on this list and they put your picture on the website and all that. And so I went on the website and I see my name still on there. And I was, when somebody else had told me, said, you still on OLIS. And so I said, wait a minute, how can I be, you know? And so I called the people in the Michigan Department of Corrections, and they said they couldn't take it down because it's still reflected in the judicial system, the Third Judicial Circuit Court, and it's still on my register of entries. So she said, you'd have to call the clerk of the court and see if they could, you know, close your case and remove from their system, and then we'll remove from ours. Well, they can't remove from that system, it's just there. Anybody can Google it, anybody, there's all type. And I asked the clerk, I said, my information, if I'm exonerated, should my information be deleted or expunged from all these different databases? And she said, no. Now, I was supposed to leave my fingerprints back and all that, but they got electronic fingerprints when you go to the county jail, they put your thing on it. They ain't the card, they don't do the card no more. So to suggest that they might purge all this stuff, it's just not, that's not feasible, it's not plausible to even think they're gonna do that. And so, any employer, when you go apply to a job, turn your resume, turn your application, they can just go on any of these websites and they'll be able to find this information that you've been exonerated. And even that's a good thing. You would think that employees would respect that, but just the fact that you've been in prison for 35 years or however many years, they think that you somehow, in some way, damaged. Because you have to be, you know, a person that's been in prison for 34 years, you almost think that they would be cuckoo in some way, you know what I'm saying, to come out, because to expect somebody to be normal after living in such an abnormal environment for so long, that's a true testament of a person's strength and character to overcome that. But you gotta have hope, you gotta keep fighting, you gotta be strong, because there's a lot of forces inside prison that will break you. You know, there's a whole bunch of things, everything is in prison, everything that's out here is basically in prison. You get anything in prison that you can get out here just about. And so, but to answer your question directly, that stuff is still on my record. And anybody, any employee that wants to look it up, they're gonna be able to see it, and it's still gonna affect us for the rest of our life.
Julie's been exonerated for 10 years. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, everybody's situation is going to be different. After I was formally exonerated by the Michigan Clinic, what was the proper term that you used to actually get everything expunged?
So we expunged.
Expunged.
In all of our cases, we signed teams of students to try to clean up the records. We do get people off Otis, Darrell, so we know the right person to call to the Department of Corrections to get you off Otis. We talked about that. But it's largely an exercise in the internet age. It's largely an exercise in futility because there are so many private databases. So you can eventually, with a lot of calls and a lot of emails and sometimes threats and action, you can get people's names removed from official databases, but then there's all these private databases that employers can look it up. So I think it's impossible these days for anybody who's been wrongfully convicted to go to an employer and the employer not to find out, or they so time privileged, unfortunately.
Right, and yeah, just to, so it was expunged, but I remember they gave me this letter that I could take with me to accompany me when I was going on job interviews and attached with my resumes. And unfortunately, for the first year, people would not hire me, even though I was, because of just that point, they think that you're damaged. Like, oh, you may have been innocent, but you were still in prison, so you're not coming out as we are. Unfortunately, that's just the mentality of some people. So I stopped, sharing that, and then eventually I gained employment several years ago. But yeah, it's a tough road for anybody, and everybody's situation is different. So.
I just want to take a quick second. Richard, I don't know you, I haven't met you for too long, but I know Darrell, he's been in 34 years, 40 years plus, the Darrell Watkins 40 years plus. I'm just blown away by the grace and poise that you guys have and to come out. And like Darrell said, you should all, we think, be in a cuckoo nest after that kind of time, but you have so much poise and grace and peacefulness about you. I just wondered, did there come a time in your stint that anger went away? Like I had another client tell me, it wasn't until I stopped being angry that I could help myself.
Well, in terms of being angry, at first, I think I was angry at the system because it seems as though the system wasn't working for me. It worked for other people, but it wasn't working for me. And so I was angry about that, not so much as to what happened to me. It's just that each of us deserve constitutional rights. Nobody should have any better opportunity than another sector. And in America, we're all supposed to be equal, considered equal. And so therefore, that was probably what was upsetting me more. He was more so than being in prison for something that I didn't do. So I had to come to grips with the fact that, hey, this is just America. We've got to learn to deal with some of the situations that's going on that we have no control over. I have no control over the political aspects of America. Who gets what, who divides what up between different sectors of races and so forth, including justice. So I just had to come to grips with the fact that being mad is not going to get it. What I have to do is get myself together mentally and emotionally so that I would be able to deal with society once I got free. I had in the back of my mind that at some point God would not fail me and would let me out. Eventually it happened. So I was prepared to go forward and be happy regardless of compensation or anything else. I refuse to let America, Michigan, or anybody else to keep me from enjoying the rest of my life.
In the same breath, when I first came to prison, I hated everything to deal with the justice system. I hated lawyers, I hated prosecutors, I hated police officers, and it almost consumed me. But at some point, as I became more educated, I began to understand that hate and negativity will not propel me and allow me to move forward. And so as I began to become more positive and more loving and more caring and more open, opportunities began to come my way. The more I learned, the more positive I became, the more people came in my life, the more God came in my life, the more blessings I began to receive. And once I began to feel empowered by that positive energy, if you will, everything in life became pleasant to me. Even despite my incarceration, I knew that was just a circumstance. And I prepared for it, and I had faith. But I knew that faith without work is dead. The Bible told me that. And so I had to work to get out. But the more positive I became, the more blessings became in my life, and life just became more understanding, more enjoyable for me. And I began to have vision. I began to see things. And the more I read, the more I wanted to read. The more educated I became, the more educated. It was just a beautiful experience. Once I began to think positive, be positive, and do positive things, and that's when my life changed. And that's when all the people began to come to my life. And I must say, I've been fortunate. Because a lot of prisons, they don't have people to come in their life that will help them. They don't have lawyers that will come in their life who will believe in their story. You have to, if you're uneducated, you're not able to properly articulate yourself so that people will understand what you've been through and what your story is. If the police lie on you, if you haven't read transcripts, you don't know, like, let me just give a real brief example. In my case, one of the issues was, police said that this so-called firearm examiner said that he found a bullet in my home that had 4 lands and bruises. And the bullet that killed the victim had 12. Well, you can't match 12 and 4 lands and bruises. They just don't match. That's scientifically impossible. But if you don't study and learn that stuff, you'll never know it. And so most people, I didn't have no understanding of ballistic identification. Most people in prison don't have understanding of just the most simple and basic understanding of the law, court rules, and so forth and so on. So being positive just helps. It opens up your mind. You learn about you study about history. I studied about the Constitution. I studied about the Declaration of Independence. I studied about Plato, Aristotle, Socrates. And it began to open up my mind with the different philosophers. They studied logic and rationale, and all these different things just made life more pleasant for me, and I became just a better human being as a result.
So first, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and sharing your experiences. The topic of wrongful convictions alone is the sole reason I'm in hospital today. Like my brother over there said, how he encourages members of the bar to pretty much put out the documents and help and aid people. What can young members of the bar, i.e. like law students, do right now to help out?
Volunteer some of these innocence projects, and they would, there are all type of projects that you can volunteer in, and you will learn wealth of experience. You will learn both sides of the coin. Volunteer at the prosecutor's office, volunteer at Innocence Maintained, volunteer at the Michigan Innocence Clinic, volunteer. There's so many different organizations you can volunteer at, and you can correspond with prisoners. If you really want to know what's going on, correspond with a prisoner. I ain't talking about no romantic stuff and nothing like that. I'm talking just correspond with a prisoner and find out what's really going on, and make sure he understands what the purpose of this is. You'll be surprised what you will learn from prisoners if you just talk to them. They got a picture painted of a bunch of crazy people. What they show you on TV, they show you level 5, lockdown, level 5 with a bunch of guys, and they have different levels. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in prison. And so what you're looking at on TV, which will give you an automatic bias, you think all prisons are nuts, is you see in level 5, the worst of the worst. But all prisons are like it is, to a point he made, Mr. Sanders, I know him for many, many years. We had lawyers come inside the prison, doctors come inside the prison, judges come inside the prison. They weren't afraid once we treated them with utmost respect. And they would come in multiple times. We had senators come inside the prison. So if you want to go inside the prison, apply to go inside and talk to them. They would treat you with utmost respect. I would say level 2.
We don't have any
have a
opportunity
question
for lawsuits
I'm
to
not sure
volunteer.
I can answer. I was very deeply taken by your art. And it's clear that while you were confined in the cells, your soul was looking outward because your art is very positive and well, it varies, I know. Artists can't always speak about their art. I don't know if you want to, but can you tell us something about how you were expressing yourself through the brushes and the materials you were using?
Well, it wasn't so much about me trying to express myself, but that was just a natural something that came about because I've already had the ability to draw. So it wasn't so much expressing art. There was really nobody to give my expression to. Most of my art, once I finished it, I just put it away. So there was nobody to really impress or show it to unless somebody asked me. For me, actually painting and learning to really paint with watercolor, it was a way of me to escape the misery and the agony that goes around in the prison environment. So it allowed me to get into my paint emotionally and mentally. While all sorts of stuff is going on around me, I'm not there. I'm here. And it helped me to escape a lot of years and a lot of depression just by actually being able to paint. So it served a purpose for me. That was probably why I got emotionally into art of painting.
Thank you. I just want to urge you all to Google something like Richard Phillips, Michigan artist, watercolors, some of those terms you'll find in Richard's art. It's not just good, it's superb. And the show in Ferndale was a huge success. And one of the great joys I've had with him as a client and Exoneree is that I took up drawing about 8 years ago just as a hobby, and he'll go draw with me, and he tries really hard but fails not to laugh at my efforts. It's such a gracious guy. He shares his time and is making me a slightly better artist as we speak.
Okay, with that, let's take a 15-minute break, and we'll return for the third part of our program. Thank you for